These groups have radicalized impressionable individuals to foment violence.
The accusations are turning out to be admissions again, folks. Not a migrant, not a minority, not LGBT. Where the MAGA White House outrage at? Donald Trump's violent rhetoric continues to kill innocent Americans. As the suspected perpetrator in the Michigan shooting over the weekend that left 4 dead and 8 injured was, you guessed it, a Trump supporter. And look, we will break down all the emerging details about this person's history in this video. It was editing the video when I got this notification, but apparently the shooter's MAGA mom shared a chilling message before he went on the massacre. But I just want to say off the jump, the fact that this guy is turning out to be a Trump supporter shouldn't even be the point. Frankly, I'm sick of this pointing the fingers and trying to score political points off of political violence. But we have to point out that the reason it has become the point is because of this administration's lies and finger pointing. And because there's just no way we can even trust the information we're getting from this administration anymore.
And they are trying to understand more about this, how premeditated it was, how much planning went into it, whether he left a note. All of those questions have yet to be answered, but certainly will be answered by the FBI. I think the American people in your audience can be assured. Look at the great work that the FBI did in light of, or in the hours and days following the assassination attempt, or assassination, I'm sorry, on Charlie Kirk's life. That was a successful investigation.
Real quick, if you appreciate truth and the independent work we're doing here to keep it accessible, please drop a like and subscribe. And before we break down who Thomas Stanford is turning out to be, or have been, here's a brief overview of the tragedy that occurred yesterday in Michigan.
We expect more details today from the investigation into yesterday's deadly shooting and fire at a Mormon church in Michigan. Authorities have identified the suspect as Thomas Jacob Sanford. They say he intentionally rammed his truck into the building, got out and shot worshipers inside with an assault rifle, and then set the church on fire. He was killed on the scene in a shootout with police just 8 minutes into the attack. According to military records, he was 40 years old, a U.S. Marine from 2004 to 2008, and a veteran of the war in Iraq. The FBI has said yesterday's shooting was, quote, an act of targeted violence. So yes, the FBI is leading things.
And this is all public now, so of course people started digging through Thomas's online history, where they found a multitude of interesting things. Now, so far, authorities have not provided a motive for the attack, though we do have a little bit of a breaking news update on that in just a second. Public records show that Sanford had no party affiliation. However, in one social media post dated September 2019, Sanford is seen wearing a Trump 2020 t-shirt which had the text, "Make liberals cry again." This is actually a snipped out image of himself in that photo. Here is the photo with his wife and child on the beach with the Trump 2020 Make Liberals Cry Again shirt. In addition to that, records show that Sanford lived in a house that a Google Maps image from June of 2025 shows a Trump sign outside of the suspect's home. And this account, Right Wing Watch, also found that in a Facebook post dated May 12, 2021, Sanford's wife, Tella Sanford, shared a link accompanied by the hashtags Bring Trump Back and Who Voted for This, though the link to the content has been deleted. That reporting all comes from Newsweek, but some of the comments on this right-wing Instagram post are not a migrant, not a minority, not LGBT, where the MAGA White House outrage at, and crickets from the right, of course. How will they spin this? And, well, unfortunately, that is kind of the point. And we know, I will show you in just a second, clear examples of how they are and have been spinning these things. And y'all, I apologize if this feels out of nowhere. I actually was editing the video when I got this notification, and so just decided to record so I could include this. But apparently, the shooter's MAGA mom shared a chilling message before he went on the massacre. The mother of the Mormon church shooter posted an ominous message in the days before the massacre about being, quote, hurt by someone close to her who, quote, constantly avoids accountability. Here is a picture of her in 2024 with a Trump Vance sign next to a weird cutout of Donald Trump. Holy cow. Brenda Walter Sanford, mother of the Michigan Mormon massacre, was apparently, like her son, a Trump supporter. Here's the message she posted just days before the attack on her Facebook, apparently. It says, people lack accountability, then say, you could have talked to me. No, I couldn't. You don't listen. You deflect. You twist everything into an attack and then play the victim. Wow, does this sound very MAGA-esque? Conversations with you aren't healing, they're exhausting, draining, and emotionally suffocating. Every time I try to speak, it feels like walking through a maze of blame where my words are used against me, my intentions questioned, and my emotions invalidated. I end up questioning myself, doubting my own perceptions, because nothing I say lands without being turned into some justification for your behavior. I've spent too long bending, softening, and framing my words to fit the narrative you want, hoping for connection, for understanding, for a simple acknowledgement of reality, but it never comes. Instead, there's defensiveness, twisting, and manipulation, all while you act like the wrong party. And honestly, I can't and I won't invest my emotional energy in someone who consistently prioritizes winning over understanding, control over empathy, and excuses over responsibility. If only she'd apply that to her political beliefs. But anyway, Walter Sanford did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A family friend told journalist Ty Steele that she had been told Thomas Sanford, the actual perpetrator, was battling PTSD, and apparently the family is cooperating with the FBI. This right now is the closest thing we seem to have to a motive, though obviously authorities have not confirmed all of this yet. However, a council candidate in the community came out and said that the shooting suspect bombarded them with an antichrist rant days earlier. Here's that story real quick. A Burton City Council candidate, Chris Johns, revealed that the man authorities say attacked the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan over the weekend had recently called Mormons the Antichrist. Johns told the Detroit Free Press that he actually spoke to Sanford while canvassing less than a week prior, and during that interaction, Sanford went on a tirade against the church and described Mormons as the Antichrist. The man was outgoing, polite, and, quote, extremely friendly, John said, and his animosity towards the church didn't seem violent. It was very much standard anti-LDS talking points that you would find on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. But John started seeing images on television and social media of law enforcement swarming the home he had just been to last week on East Atherton and had a bad feeling. Then he saw the man's photo circulating online. Quote, "There's certain things you don't forget," John said of Thomas Jacob Sanford, who was a Marine veteran, served in Iraq. Quote, "This is not a forgettable guy." John said the conversation took a sharp turn when Sanford began asking him about Mormonism. "I just didn't know what the next question was going to be," the candidate said, and the conversation culminated with Sanford claiming that the religion was the Antichrist. And wouldn't you know, the shooter had posted content from Charlie Kirk that complained about the 1619 Project, which is an ongoing initiative via the New York Times that brings light to the true history of slavery. Here is that post. You can see Tom Sanford reposting Charlie Kirk. "We need to teach our kids to love America again, not this garbage revisionist history we get from the 1619 Project, which is just frankly not revisionist history. In fact, the irony is Charlie's version was revisionist history. But again, that is what these people want you to think. Just a little over a week ago, here is Caroline Levitt saying this.
These groups have radicalized impressionable individuals to foment violence. An attempted transgender assassin traveled to Justice Brett Kavanaugh's family home with plans to end his life. An attempted assassin came within an inch of ending President Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, and on the campaign trail, another attempted assassin tried to kill the president at his golf club in Florida. A left-wing assassin shot United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson right in the back in the heart of New York City. ICE agents are facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults for simply doing their jobs. Violent radical left-wing mobs engaged in illegal behavior, targeted Jewish Americans, and shut down America's college campuses under the previous administration. Left-wing mobs burned down Tesla dealerships out of, quote, protest of Elon Musk and his policies. In May, a left-wing activist shouting "Free Palestine" murdered 2 innocent Israeli embassy staffers outside of the D.C. Jewish Museum here in Washington. These are just a few examples, prominent examples of the growing left-wing political violence in our country. Enough is enough, and as President Trump has promised, he will directly address the dark sources funding and supporting this domestic terrorism to finally restore order in our country.
And despite the majority of violence being committed by members of the far right, This administration will sit there and cherry pick those instances without talking about Trump saying we have to beat the hell out of radical left lunatics, or MAGA podcaster Matt Walsh saying the mayor of Chicago should be executed, or MAGA Fox News pundits continually going on live TV and calling for more violence, whether it's against leftists, homeless people, or anyone. It is no wonder that MAGA supporters keep killing people in this country. Their orders are coming from the top down. And all of this is beside the clear point that we need more common sense gun laws and regulation that simply will not come about because of how this administration operates and how historically funding has come for the Republican Party from the NRA and lobbyist groups that keep us from making any progress on one of the most deadliest issues this country faces. And the irony to sit here and watch these people, these administrative officials of our government, say these heinous things and call out the radical left violence while ensuring there is continued violence through their actions despite their words, it makes me sick, folks. And it will not stop unless we continue to call it out and point out the hypocrisy and begin to move past the blame game and start actually working on solutions, because that is what MAGA doesn't want. They don't want any real progress. This administration does not want real solutions, real progress for anything. The more conflicts they have, the more problems that we have as a society, the easier it is for them to grasp control. That's not even a left or right thing. And while we can acknowledge the facts that right-wingers commit statistically far more violence, we can also acknowledge that this country as a whole has a lot of work to do internally to make sure this violence doesn't happen on either side. And that work starts with taking control back from the current powers that be. And that is exactly what we are trying to do here at Really American. We are calling this stuff out. So if you like our videos and want to support our independent work here, then please drop a like on the video, subscribe, leave a comment. It is the freest way to fight fascism. We greatly appreciate all of you. And for Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I will see you in the next one.